Hello and welcome to another episode of the Limitless Athlete Podcast. I'm Tom Foxley, the founder of Mindset Rx'd, a coaching service for athletes that focuses on the development of mindset to unleash athletic potential. Today, I want you to take home from this episode an understanding of how sleep works and how that affects your mindset, and also what you can do about that. So essentially today, what we're going to do is cover fundamentals of sleep, give you an understanding of why we go to sleep, how sleep works, what happens in different stages of sleep, brainwaves associated with that, and what actually happens when you're getting to sleep. And then attached to that, both the mental health and the athletic mindset perspective on that, and then wrap up with some general guidelines that I like to apply with my athletes. It's a kind of a starting point that we'll finish off with. So yeah, we're gonna really dive into some of that stuff and develop a really good understanding of how to sleep better, how to improve your mindset through that, and then how to perform better because of that. I'm going to caveat this by saying I'm not a sleep scientist. I've done a lot of research into it, but I'm not the kind of the be all and end all of sleep research. There's a couple of resources that I'd recommend that you check out if you want to go into a deeper dive into this, which is the Huberman Lab podcast. He's done some Dr. Andrew Huberman has done some great podcasts on sleep, as well as a bunch of other things, and also Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. Two really good in-depth guides, and a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today has come directly from that. But I really want to talk to you as an athlete and how we can apply that. So let's start out with what actually happens in sleep. Well, as you drift off, you're going to go through essentially 90-ish minute cycles. And in these cycles, you'll go from phase 1 through 4, back to 1, all the way through to 4. And that will happen, that transition from stages 1, 2, 3, and 4 over 90 minutes or so, which means that you're typically around 4, 5, 3, something like that, cycles per night of sleep. So we can break down these stages into REM and non-REM sleep. Let's start with REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and this is typically where dreaming happens. And actually dreaming can happen at any stage of sleep, but it's the vast majority of it happens in REM sleep. This is, like, in terms of brain waves, this is very similar to waking consciousness brainwaves. Your brain's in a very similar state, but you're asleep, obviously, and your body actually goes into an almost, is a paralysis. Your muscles stop working according to the commands of your brain, aside from obviously your respiratory muscles, your cardiorespiratory muscles, so your heart, your lungs, and everything associated, your lungs aren't a muscle, but everything associated with the breathing part of what's happening and the heart rate part. So it's obviously things will be bad. So muscles apart from your eyes as well. So your eyes stay awake, your eyes stay moving around. And that's where REM gets its name from, a rapid eye movement sleep, because as you dream, your eyes flicker from side to side. And if I look behind me, he's not asleep. But my puppy there, he is chewing away, but when he is asleep, you can see his eyes are twitching too when he is dreaming. So that's REM sleep. As the night goes on, you will prioritize much more REM sleep. So your initial priority is deep sleep, which we'll get to in a second. But as the night goes on, you spend more and more time in REM sleep. And then let's get to non-REM sleep. REM sleep is actually also known as stage 4 sleep, but non-REM sleep consists of 3 stages: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Stage 1 is basically your dozing. You barely spend any time here if you've got good sleep practice and hygiene. Stage 2 is when you start to deepen this relaxation. Your muscles begin to relax, your breathing and your heart rate slows down, and pretty much half of your sleep is spent here. And stage 3, in terms of athletic development, is kind of the golden zone. You really want to get here for the physical recovery. At this point, it's also called delta sleep and slow wave sleep. But at this point, everything slows down. Your pulse, your breath, and your muscle tone diminishes too. So you have even less tension in your body. This is where your body really recovers and grows from training. Your immune system is enhanced. And also there's links to creativity, insight, memory. And if your REM sleep is met, your body is going to also, the need for your REM sleep is met. Your body is going to prioritize deep sleep. This is really, really important for your body. And what's happening here is essentially your brain waves are slowing down, or you actually have all different types of brain waves happening, which is kind of an electrical signal produced by the brain's activities, and you're experiencing them all the time. But like I said, in REM or stage 4, it's very similar kind of, if you were to put electrodes all over your scalp as you were sleeping, you would, like in REM sleep, the signals given off would be very, very similar to daily waking consciousness. But in stages 1 through 3, your brainwaves start off being dominated by like alpha and theta. So it's like someone who's very relaxed and awake, all the way into delta waves, which are far slower, like kind of longer, slower pulses. And this is the kind of transition that your brain makes as you go through sleep. The interesting thing here is that if I deprive you of sleep for one night and then allow you to sleep uninterrupted, you are going to prioritize REM sleep. So initially, it was like the stage 3 or slow wave sleep or delta sleep was seen as the only goal in sleep, to get you to that deep sleep state. What actually needed to happen, though, or what the actual realization here was, the REM sleep is really, really important. So if I was going to say, nope, you cannot sleep, and keep you up and maybe let you sleep for 90 minutes overnight, and then the next night, say you're like, you can go straight up to sleep, your body won't go into the traditional sleeping like kind of process. It won't go through stages 1 through 3 and then spend most of the time in deep sleep. It will actually prioritize that REM sleep. And the reason why is that REM sleep, it helps balance out and process emotional information. So anything that you did during the day that has that emotional salience, or was difficult or had emotional kind of charge to it, your brain wants to process that, to extract what's useful from it, and to help you learn, to help you better adapt to the world, and to kind of maybe help you make sense of the world. And this helps you balance mood. So if you're not getting enough sleep, your body's desperately trying to get this REM sleep because it's so, so important. And usually it doesn't catch up with it. And then it goes back into deep wave sleep, and that kind of process continues. If you don't get the sleep you need, what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to consolidate positive emotional content. And what that means is you're going to have a more negative lens on the world. You're going to have your stories, your non-serving stories are going to be far more sticky, and all those kind of old patterns of behavior that you thought you got rid of, they're more likely to come back when you miss out on REM sleep. And this is a really long-lasting effect. Like if you continually do this, you're going to really struggle with your mindset. So it pays dividends to sleep well. It really pays dividends to sleep well. So how does the body actually get to sleep? What's the process, and what are the triggers to get to sleep? There's 4 things that I like to modulate with our athletes when we're working with them. One of them is circadian rhythm. So this is essentially the cycle that your body goes through. It's your body's natural internal clock that predicts sleep and encourages sleep, and also predicts and encourages wakefulness. The key here is that your body thrives on routine. It loves consistency. The more you can get to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, the more your body is going to love you for it. So the first step really is identifying that rhythm. And if you're changing your rhythm of sleep all around, and if you're going here and there and kind of messing around with your rhythm, especially at the weekends, we need to get that sorted. Second thing is heat. Your body's temperature actually starts to drop and to get towards what's known as the temperature minimum. So the minimum temperature that your body gets to. as you go to sleep. And we want that low body temperature to encourage sleep. So if you're really hot, if you do like if you work out just before bed, there's a whole load of obviously hormonal things that come up there. But one of the side effects of that is your body generates heat. And as you generate heat, that makes you less likely to go to sleep. So you can use this in the morning, because if you want to be awake, you can go out, go for a run, do some fitness, do some training, and that will generate wakefulness, and it will spike that kind of mood and alertness. But if you want to get if you want to get to sleep, start thinking about bringing the temperature down. Then caffeine is the big one. It was previously my downfall for a long time in sleep. I'd have caffeine way too late. I would have too many cups of coffee per day. And caffeine, essentially, there's, I think, a neurochemical. I think that's probably the best way to say it. Adenosine, which is the molecule responsible for making you sleepy. And that binds to something called adenosine receptors in the brain. And as the adenosine binds to the receptors, that's what makes you feel sleepy. The way caffeine works is it kind of blocks off those receptors, so it stops them. It stops in receiving that adenosine, and that works for a long time. It works for a hell of a long time, really. It sticks around your body. Caffeine sticks around your body for around 12 hours or so. But what happens when you eventually wear off? You get this flood of adenosine, and that just flushes through your body and crushes you. So what we need to do in that situation is limit our caffeine. We don't want much caffeine around when we're going to sleep. So that's something to play around with. And then the most obvious trigger for getting to sleep, light. How much light are you experiencing? Like first thing in the morning, your body wants natural light, getting outside away from like kind of glass protecting you, and getting outside into nature, or getting outside just walking around, and that's going to trigger alertness. And similarly, limiting that artificial light before bed is really going to help. So what happens with your athletic mindset? Because we've done the mental health side of things, which is REM is going to help you process emotional information and to help you balance your mood. And there's been demonstrated links to depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder and so many other conditions if you're not getting enough sleep. What does it do for your athletic mindset? Well, mental toughness is diminished hugely if you're not getting enough sleep. And this kind of makes sense if you think about, if I was to deprive you of loads of sleep for a night, and then I was going to say, I want you to do this extremely tough test, you're just not going to have that grit. You're not going to have that willpower and determination and ability to push to your limits, compared to if you've slept properly. And that exacerbated over a period of 2 weeks or a month or a lifetime, that gets severely limited. Like I can think back to the times when I was in the military, and that sleep deprivation is the biggest drain on your mental toughness. Like the first night of going to the field, you're like really alert, you can put up with loads of shit. And then as you get tired and you start missing out on sleep, and you're sleeping for like an hour here and there, like throughout the day, like, or you're getting an hour's sleep per day, like it really screws with your mental toughness. But also it screws with your clear thinking, your decision making, your ability to learn, your ability to adapt, and that mental stability and emotional regulation as well. Like if I also think back to those times when I was in the military, and you see people snap, or they just have this kind of meltdown of emotions, it's always when they're sleep deprived. It's such a brutal thing to be doing to human beings, obviously very necessary in that line of work. But that mental stability, that emotional regulation, it is a key part of why we need to sleep as athletes. Like if you want to become a better athlete, if you want to step into your potential, if you want to stop limiting yourself and falling into those self-sabotage patterns, we need to prioritize sleep. We need to give ourselves more high quality sleep. And then we have things like the physical side of things, like reaction times as well. Reaction times drop off hugely if we don't get enough sleep. So guidelines, these are what you should be aiming for 80% of the time. You're not going to get it 100% of the time, and that's absolutely fine. In fact, I think it's that perfectionism around sleep is a huge problem that we face. But 80% of the time, if you're hitting 7.5 to 8.5 hours plus 1 hour for each training session you run, you're in a really good place for mindset training, and a really good place for your sleep, and a really good place for developing your mindset. The next step is to establish a regular wake and bedtime. So those are kind of linked up. So think about typically 8.5 hours in the night. Like, people don't need 4 hours. There's a lot of people say they need 4 hours sleep and they don't. They just don't know what having adequate sleep really feels like. So give yourself 7.5 to 8.5 hours per night with regular wake and bedtimes. Then we're thinking about, how can I trigger that sleepiness better, and how can I trigger wakefulness better when I wake up in the morning? Get outside within 1 hour of waking and walk around for 5 to 10 minutes if it's sunny, 10 to 20 minutes if it's cloudy, like it seems to be perpetually in the UK at the moment. And get outside, no sunglasses. Me looking out through a window right now doesn't count. Get outside and without kind of protection. Eyeglasses are fine. Sunglasses don't help, but eyeglasses, your standard eyeglasses, are absolutely fine. We don't want you bumping into things as you walk around. So get outside within 1 hour of waking, eliminating caffeine between 9 and 12 hours before bedtime, limiting alcohol and cannabis and whatever other kind of, those are the two main substances to limit. Alcohol and cannabis, they don't help sleep at all. They actually just make you more likely to fall into a pattern of pretty much unconsciousness. And then finally, temperature. Play around with temperature too. So make sure your bedroom's cool, so that when you go in there, I think it's around 14 degrees Celsius, 16 degrees Celsius, something like that is optimal. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but you guys can figure that out. It's pretty chilly. It's like you basically want it too cold to walk around naked in. That's a good rule of thumb. And then blankets and stuff, and layer up. And it's fine to be warm when you're in bed, but you want it cool enough that you don't really want to put your hands outside of the covers. That's why you can't sleep on a summer night. Your body wants to have a cool temperature. So play around with temperature, see what you can modulate with it. And also the kind of one way I thought, oh yeah, you can hack this, is by making your body temperature cool. And I thought I can jump into an ice bath or jump into a cold shower, and that's going to help my body temperature drop. And yes, it does initially, but what happens after that is your internal furnace kind of kicks in and your body starts to generate heat, and then it actually goes into overdrive and makes you too warm to sleep. So actually, a nice warm bath about half an hour to 45 minutes before sleep is the best way to get that body hot and then to begin its cooling down, and that is going to really help. So hopefully that was some sleep guidelines. If you have any questions about sleep, shoot me a message. You can find me on Instagram, Tom Foxley, TomFoxley, or you can find us on Instagram through our business page, Mindset Rx, which is Mindset Rx'd. Hopefully that was useful. I'd love to hear what else you need to know about for your mindset, because I'd love to provide the service to you. So shoot me a message, keep me updated, and I shall speak to you all very soon. Oh yeah, and don't forget to subscribe and like and share the podcast too.